Hello everyone, my name is Jared and I'm from TechWorks and this is my very first video. With that said, I wanted to do a short little introduction which told you guys a little bit about what the channel is going to be doing, where it's going to be going, and where I see it in the future. So my whole idea is to create a channel that does more of an average review sort of thing, where I tell you guys what is going to be the best phone or technology that might fit your needs based on kind of what the offering is. So there's a lot of channels that are dedicated to Android or Apple or tech tips versus reviews, and really I'm going to try to do a little bit of everything. Kind of some basic stuff for people kind of just searching around trying to find the right answers. So again, my name is Jared, and in just a few short moments you are going to see my very first video, which is going to be the review of the 2017 MacBook Pro 15-inch computer. Alright, see you then. So you just happen to have a little bit of extra money burning a hole in your pocket, and you're wondering if the 2017 15-inch MacBook Pro is worth it in comparison to the 2012 MacBook Pro all the way up to the 2015 15-inch MacBook Pro. So this video is all going to be about the differences, what are some of the pros, what are some of the cons, and what do I specifically think about these two laptops. So let's get into it. So from between 2012 and 2015, this laptop looked identical. It had MagSafe 2, it had the same thing internally, had the same configurations, the SSD changed a little bit, but nothing drastic. The biggest change was in 2015, they introduced the Force Touch trackpad to this exact model. Fast forward to 2016, that's when they did this whole redesign of a slimmer MacBook Pro. You lost all the I/O that you had on the previous generations in terms of your HDMI ports, your MagSafe, your USB, your normal USB port, as well as an SD card slot. Now you have 4 USB-C ports and a headphone jack, and that's it. So really, what are the big differences? Well, if you have a 2012 like this computer right here, 5 years makes a huge difference in terms of speed, in terms of performance. Basically, in every way, shape, or form, 5 years makes a difference. Really, if you have a 2015 model, I wouldn't necessarily say it's the greatest upgrade, because generally the internals are more or less the same. Obviously, every year the internals get faster, just like every year the iPhone changes, and every year Android phones get faster. That's just how technology works. But in terms of real benefit from a 2015 to a 2017, honestly, if you have a 2015, I'd say save your money, go buy something else. Really wait a couple more years till they do something drastic again. But if you have a 2012 like this, I would say it's definitely worth it. This computer was a workhorse. It does a lot of things great, really has very little cons, and this computer's just about the same thing. What I really want to talk about is the unique differences now between this version versus this version. So they still sell the 2015. Maybe you can just go buy the 2015 if you have an older model, or maybe you just really want the new version. It's kind of going to be a personal preference sort of thing. What you're going to use it for. I mean, I know myself personally, I have a ton of stuff that's normal USB, and converting it all to USB-C would be either a lot of money, or you'd have to have dongles everywhere, and that's just kind of nuts. I think the whole dongle thing is kind of out of hand, and now that Apple's making you have dongles for headphone jacks, dongles for your laptop. And honestly, this laptop is missing one of my favorite things, which is the MagSafe 2 port. Someone walks by, trips over your cord, didn't take your laptop with it. Now with USB-C, it plugs right in, someone trips over it. Well, this very expensive computer is now going to be hitting the floor, which is really unfortunate. MagSafe 2, I think a lot of people will agree with me that MagSafe 2 was great. It was one of the things that differentiated MacBooks versus PCs, and now it's gone, so that really stinks. As far as this computer, these are both the base 15-inch versions, 256 gigs hard drives. They both have Core i7s, and they both have 16 gigabytes of RAM. Now this RAM is slower than this RAM. Again, that's just the nature of being 5 years newer, but this is the same speed that was all the way up to 2015. It's marginally faster as far as RAM speed is concerned. The SSD is really where the performance is. Obviously the screen's nicer, the keyboard's different, the trackpad's different. So there's a lot of differences that have happened between 2012 to 2015 all the way up to 2017. So let's start talking about those a little bit. So this computer is ultra thin, great build quality, super light. It's almost noiseless even under load. You hear a little bit of the fan whine, but nothing crazy. And the biggest thing is it costs a good amount of money. In the PC world, there is plenty of other computers that would outperform this for not a fraction of the cost, but 2/3 of the cost. Great example is there's last year's Alienware, which is a 17-inch computer. It weighs nearly 20 pounds. It is huge. It's probably 4 times as thick compared to this computer. It comes in around $500 to $600 less. It'll outperform it in gaming just about in every sense of the way. But people who are heavily invested into the Apple ecosystem, or if you're going to use this computer for part business, you're probably not going to whip out an Alienware and sit down to a conference and meet with some high executives. You're going to want something that's a little more stylish, where that's kind of going to fall into the Razer computer categories. They do make a very thin, light Ultrabook that could compare to this. I don't know the exact specs on it, but I know it does look similar. It's nice in matte black. It can be business and it can be for gaming also, where Macs really, you're buying a Mac for a Mac. You're not going to be buying it for gaming. You're going to be buying this for your pro apps, your Final Cut, your Logic. Anything like that is going to be great on this computer, where you get into the PCs and it's kind of going to be a whole other thing. But anyway, with this computer, what are you getting for the money? Well, you have a giant trackpad. Trackpad nearly takes up the whole bottom portion of the laptop, which is great. Mousing around in Adobe and Logic and things like that, there's a lot of real estate, which is fantastic. You have this new version of the Butterfly keyboard, which is now version 2. And the 2015 12-inch Macs were the first to introduce it. And honestly, it was almost typing on a flat surface. Very little tactile feedback, very little key travel. It took a lot to get used to typing and getting your speed back up to where it used to be on a normal MacBook or a normal keyboard. This changed things a little bit. I like the keyboard a lot better than on the 2015 12-inch Mac because there is a tactile feedback, there is a little bit of key travel, and a pretty satisfying click to your key. So you do get that feedback when you're typing, and it makes it for a pretty pleasurable typing experience. The next thing, honestly, these may be the best 15-inch speakers I've ever heard, or laptop speakers I've ever heard, period. They're pretty clear, they get pretty loud, and honestly, I haven't heard a laptop that could compete with these speakers yet. It's fantastic. So the next thing you see on the top is a touch bar, and that's completely different than all the other Macs because previous you had your function keys, your display brightness, your keyboard brightness, and now they're gone. It's in terms of this OLED top bar, and also your power button is also a Touch ID pad to log in. So that changes things drastically. So you're not going to be one keystroke away from dimming your keys or dimming your display. It's going to be different. So when you log on, you can use the Touch ID after you've logged in one time, and after that, this whole top part is going to be determined by the program you're using. So if you're in Safari, you can change tabs. If you hit a new tab, you can see your favorite bookmarks up on the top. It kind of comes up with a cool little icon that comes up with your browser. If you're in pro apps like Logic or any Adobe product, and a lot of things are getting implemented for the touch bar as time goes on, there's a whole lot of other options. The other day I was using Photoshop, and you can change brush size, you can go back in your history. When I was using Final Cut, you can scrub the video back and forth. Even on YouTube, you can drag, fast forward, or rewind the video, which is nice. It makes it so once you're used to it, it's very easy to get some of your favorites right up in the top of there. But honestly, if you're just a person who's going to be using this computer for email and web browsing, it's kind of going to be more of a hindrance than a help because it's something else to get used to. Other than that, touch bar after a while does get pretty nice and you do get used to it. So now that I've used it for a bit, I like it. I think it's great. But when I was actually purchasing this laptop, I was very torn between getting just the 2015, which would have been 3 years newer than this MacBook here, compared to this, basically because I didn't know if I'd actually like that touch bar. But now that I've used it, it's really easy to edit, it's really easy to switch brush size. Even just going through your photos, you can drag through there rather than using your hand to scroll on the trackpad. So honestly, overall, I'd say this MacBook is a good MacBook. I know there's a lot of negative feedback going around that really, Apple missed the mark with switching up your I/O. And I would agree with that because, you know, people who have digital cameras or DSLR cameras with the SD card reader and everything else that they probably have, which is hard drives, and any creative person who has all their stuff stored not on their MacBook, you're going to need a dongle for just about everything. And they do make a little hub that plugs into one side of your MacBook, which does have all of that. Again, that's an extra $100. You're laying out good money for this MacBook to start with, and the last thing you really want to spend is another $100 just to make it usable with all your other stuff. Outside of that, the one little thing that I thought was cool is if you're charging your laptop and it plugs on the left and plugs on the right, you can charge from either side, which is kind of cool. It doesn't make up for not having MagSafe, but at least it is nice that you don't have to wrap the cord all the way around your MacBook just to find that one port. So, you know, this is the latest offering. USB-C is here to stay, unfortunately. So people who have a lot of old stuff, people who are still using FireWire back on the old Macs, you know, USB-C is going to be sticking around. It's faster, it has better transfer rates, it's more durable, your connections don't wear out as fast, people aren't jamming the port in upside down and messing up their pins. So it is going to be around, and after adoption rates are better, people probably are not going to be so hesitant about this Mac. Honestly though, if you're not invested in the Mac world, or the Apple world I should say, there's a lot of other computers that are great. Razer makes great computers, Dell XPSs are great computers, you have the whole line of gaming computers from Alienware, MSI, and you know, pretty much any other manufacturer that has a computer that's going to be more powerful than this for cheaper, if not the same. I mean, if you bought a PC for the same amount of money as this, it would be a crazy PC. You could build a desktop for the price of this laptop. But then again, if you're looking at this laptop, you're probably not going to be building the PC. You're probably going to be using this for creative. You probably want it because it is a Mac, and you're going to get it anyway. So my final recommendation, truthfully, if you have a 2012 Mac, 2013 MacBook, it's worth the upgrade. It's faster, it's lighter, it starts up in a split of seconds. This takes a little bit. If you have a 2015 Mac, if you really want to spend the money, spend it. It's a great computer, you're not going to be unsatisfied. But if there's other things that you want, and you have a 2015 Mac or 2014 Mac, wait a couple years. I think it's definitely worth waiting. I think it will only get better from here. The first version of this computer was in 2016. The 2017 is a little better. I'm sure the 2018 will be even better than that. So really, it's going to come down to preference, the whole Mac versus Windows debate. Bottom line, this computer's great. If you have the money, go for it. If you want to buy something else, there's a great amount of options elsewhere. But overall, it's pretty fantastic. Well guys, this was my first video. I appreciate you taking the time to watch it. As always, everyone's gonna bust on me, but if you do like the video, please comment, please like, please subscribe. This is a new channel. I'm trying to get it off the ground. It is kind of hard. The first video is always the hardest, and that's gonna be what this video is all about. Again, my name is Jared. I'm from TechWorks, and I hope to bring you guys more content that you guys want to see in the future. See you soon.